All right, so welcome, darlings. This is Self-Care Practices for Trying Times, just an impromptu circle that I wanted to host with our community so that we could connect and I could share some of the thoughts that I've been having around this time with all the stuff that's going on and being a deep feeler and sensor. Some people call that being an empath. I'm okay with shifting labels. But if you feel deeply and you're just really feeling like, I don't know, some extra tension, um, and this is one of the reasons I wanted to host this was just, to get together and just kind of share kind of how I'm navigating it, and then to see how we're each navigating it so we can contribute to one another. So in my circles, I prefer less is more, so the format's really simple. It's just a connection exercise. Then I'll invite you to an exploration in terms of considering what's really timely for you right now in terms of self-care. I noticed that when we create that intention, that things come up really interestingly that are perfect in the moment. Just earlier today, I had a conversation with one of my circle, and the perfect thing, the latest news is I injured my knee doing lunges at the gym, and we had this conversation, this wonderful conversation earlier today, and I was like, oh my God, this thing, she was talking about this one thing that she's doing, and I'm like, oh my God, that thing is perfect for me right now. So that's kind of like what can happen when we do these kind of calls. So there's no have to. So I'm just going to ask you and invite you to share and contribute. So I like to have a pad and pen always ready, or my keyboard on the go, just in case there are any insights or downloads or ideas that pop for me. And that's pretty much it. I'll just share with you some of the things that I've noticed and what's working for me. I shared some of those things in my blog post that I wrote just this past Sunday. But that's pretty much it. So kind of as a real check-in, I'd just love to knit real quickly just to see, why you're here on the call and what's your intention. What are you hoping to co-create with me on this call? I'd like to go first.
I'm just here to show up. I don't have an expectation this time.
Okay, but expectation is different than intention.
Well, I guess my intention is to show up.
Okay, perfect. That's wonderful. Thank you, Angela.
My intention is to, since I've been going through a lot, to learn and from other people, what coping mechanisms other people use and like may help me in my current situation.
Awesome. Thank you, Carmen.
I'll chime in. So number one, I love hanging out with Adela. So that was reason number one. And something that has just been growing in my world is that self-love, with its roots in this kind of work, starting with self-care, is really a key linchpin for how we can move forward into a new reality. And that's my commitment. So, yeah.
Thank you, Bobby.
As you pointed out, Adela, we've connected for a long time, and what I appreciated greatly with you were the guided meditations. And the way the world is functioning today, it gets scarier and scarier, and I just wanted to be reconnected with that place.
Wonderful.
And that's a good place.
It is a good place. Thank you. And my intention, and I put it in today's email, I said, this is one of my favorite self-care things, self-care practices. I remember a long time ago, I'd be struggling with something, and then I'd be like, I'm just going to host a 30-day event on it. I'm going to see what else everybody else has going on with this. We'll figure it out. And what would happen would be magical, how things would shift, how the downloads would come, how the energy would be totally different, by the end of the call. And a lot of that is this shared intention that we're creating together for what we're going to co-create, because this is always co-creative with me. That's how I like to dance, because everyone has brilliance and everyone has wisdom and insights. And a lot of the things that I've used came about because I discovered them on a conversation with someone or on a call with a whole group of people. So it's just more graceful and it's easier to move during really challenging times and difficult things that we may be encountering. We know it's part of the human experience. Of course, we know this, especially by now. Most of us have been around the block a few times, right? So we know that. But still, there are some things that again and again and again create ease, create grace, create a way for you to move with something instead of be in that place of resistance and harshness, that is kind of undeniable, especially over the last few weeks and few years. It's been really, really challenging to be a human being and experience the level of pain and suffering that is out there. It's undeniable. And so how do we navigate that? And how do we navigate on top of all of that? Almost everyone that I know is undergoing some kind of challenge. It's not like it was decades ago where every once in a while there would be a challenge or this thing or the stages of life. It's like all over the place, everywhere, all at once, like that movie. It's like everywhere. So how do we do that? And so I'll share some of the things that I've been doing that are my go-tos and my standards, but a circle is one of them. In this container, there's space, there's movement, there's capacity expanded for each one of us. So that's pretty much the dance, pretty straightforward. And so let's just dive in. And I wanted to just started us off with a guided visualization. So I'm just going to turn off my camera just because I find it visually distracting. And I'm probably going to just put up our picture here. And so right now what you can do is just drop into right here. So first thing to notice is your body. So if you're seated, which I think most of us are, just notice the feel of your feet against the ground. Relax your shoulders. Just rest your arms either on your lap or on your chair. And just allow your shoulders to drop, your gaze to drop, or eyes to close completely, whatever is most comfortable for you. And just notice the inflow and the outflow of your breath. Just allow every breath and every inhale and exhale to create more space in your body, a more fluid sense of being. And focus on the wellspring of your being, the space from within which you are sourced. And notice the ease and the natural flow of your energy. How it moves like a nourishing stream of belonging, of peace, of ease. and flow. Feel yourself immersed in this in every fiber and space of your being. Easy. Feel how this source renews and realigns all aspects of you, your body, your being, your heart, all of it. And how the breath of this sourceness renews everything, everyone, everywhere, right now. Notice the feel of this at-homeness that lives within you. Rest in it. Release everything except this. Here. Now. Rest in it. Feel yourself replenished and ready to meet this moment. Resting in it. Kind of keep this sensation, this feeling that we co-created, this circle of energy that's sustaining our connection. As we dive into our exploration, and as I was thinking about this, as I was thinking about the things that have really been helping me, when events like these, where there's, so much going on, so much breakdown, you really, it's like almost impossible to avoid the truth that we are connected, And in today's world, we're so connected, of course, because of the internet, that we actually get to see and experience what's happening everywhere, all the time, right? If we so choose. And when the energy is this big, it needs to go somewhere. And the worst place for it to go is in your body, actually. So a lot of the things that I do is I pay attention to that. And I notice that the kind of things that are supportive are bringing, there's several things for me. One of them is bringing my focus and attention to the moment, where I'm not looking to resist what is, whatever that is, but how I can move with what is, right? So let's say, for example, whatever's happening in Palestine and Israel and Ukraine and Russia and economy and women's rights, pick your voice, and there's a lot going on in the world, right? So for me, one of the things that I noticed, sometimes I feel like contributing to causes, in different ways. But more often than not, I look to see at how I can apply in my own personal world. Where can I provide support? Where can I nourish? Where can I serve? Because the ironic thing, I don't know if ironic is the right word, it's when you're in service, it takes care of the person that you're serving and it takes care of you too. It shifts energy, it actually expands energy because it's the energy of love. Think about that. So, what you're doing is you're being love. So, in my own world, a lot of that is I'm running errands with my family, with my ex mother in law, who theoretically I'm not supposed to be taking to the doctors. It's not my responsibility, right? But she's in need. So I am. Or, it could be, visiting my son or, helping out in whatever way, doing some groceries for someone. Those kinds of, they're little tiny things. They don't seem like a lot, but if you can lighten someone else's load, it also lightens yours. And it also, I think, shifts the energy in terms of what's possible because now you are not focused on the negative stuff that's going on, not negating it, but contributing in a way that you can contribute. And so that also means on a moment to moment basis, using my focus and flipping it all the time. All the time. So it could be like I'm driving in the car and somebody cuts me off, and instead of saying, I could just think, oh my God, maybe they're rushing off. Maybe something happened, maybe they're late to work, like I can be the bit of kindness in my energy, even if I'm not encountering that person personally. But it's all about how I am using my energy, how I'm directing my energy, which really impacts how I feel. The other thing that I've been doing a lot of, and I've had lots of practice with this because I've had a lot of stuff going on in my world for quite some time. But a lot of the other things are environmental things. So paying attention to your environment. For example, I work out like at 5 o'clock in the morning. And there's there's a gym class that starts at 6, which there's this Brazilian music and I find it really annoying. And I'm a music lover, but at 6 o'clock, I'm in the sauna at that time and I just want to relax. So I switched my workout. So now I do my cardio in the afternoon and I just do my weights and my sauna so that this way I'm hitting the gym and I'm leaving right when that music is starting. So little tweaks like that throughout your day because you don't recognize the cumulative effect of all the little things that create resistance in your world. So looking at those small little things and seeing this, I can shift. I have control over this. I can change this environment. I can change this experience. And so as you do that more and more and more in all the different little pockets where you're experiencing, this resistance, this clash, this tension, it helps diminish that and it actually frees up your energy because you're not going to get automatically annoyed about this situation that is just not aligned with what you're needing. So environments is the other place that's really big for me. And that shift that I talked about, that moment to moment focus and you're flipping it, is about looking at how to partner and play with something rather than deny and resist it. No matter what it is. How can I partner and play with this instead of denying and resisting? Which means you're no longer in the present moment, which means you're in illusion, which means suffering. That's all the great sages say. And as I can, and I'm sure you can attest in your own life. And focusing also, tweaking your environment in a way that supports that extra sorting space. One of the things that I mentioned in my blog post is this need for white space in your calendar. And so a lot of that is sifting through and cutting out things, right? It could be unnecessary meetings. It could be consolidating trips to do something instead of making 3 separate trips to do something, consolidating, cutting out entirely certain things. Like I just decided that going shopping at 3 different places because there's great deals is just too much for me. And I'm just giving up the financial benefits in exchange to go to my local supermarket and save myself the angst of shopping at 3 different places, right? Just because I thought I was doing something good, but it's turning out to be stressful. And you need a lot of space, an unplanned time where you've just got pockets where you can just rest in the moment. Just rest in the moment, be with yourself, and notice what is going on inside of you. So it's also this shift of instead of focusing on the external things, focusing on your internal environment, which is what you control at all times, no matter where you are or who you're with. This is something that is under your control and command, and that you're also responsible for, right? So that thing, and in terms of the type of things, I wanted to kind of like sort them because I find that I do different things, but they fall into these 3 categories. One is, things that comfort my body, right? So walks do that. The sauna does that. It feels good. I'm in there. It's just, I've got a lot of body things going on right now. So that's a place where I can fully relax. And it's usually quiet now when I do it. So might be a cup of tea. I'll make this tea with thyme and ginger and lemon and honey. And it's just it's good for you. And it just feels so soothing. So those kind of things that, the things that soothe and comfort your body, trying to find those kind of things in your own world. What are some of those kind of things and adding those? Sometimes it can be something as simple, and all of these, they don't fall specifically into certain categories, but one of the things that I've been doing also that's an environmental thing is just a little morning ritual. It's just a little morning ritual where I recite this mantra that I've created for how I want my day to go and who I want to be. And I just light an incense and a candle. And I start my morning that way every day. And that kind of just puts me in that groove of like, this is my intention. This is where I choose to go. This is what I choose to call into my life. And when you do that, when you set that environmental intention, it's amazing how you show up differently throughout your day. So that's been a really good one. I didn't share that in the blog post. The other category, again, are things that ease my mind, because one of the things that's happening during these times, everything's racing. There's a lot going on. And so some of this is things that you add in and things that you take out. So for example, nonstop watching news, that's not happening. I will watch some things like a short clip or something like that. And I will also, send heart and loving intentions. But I don't spend a lot of time watching these things because visually it's just really disturbing to have, the film of that and then to have be replaying it in your mind all the time. It's not helpful. It's not supportive. So for me, writing is one of those things that helps me just dump out whatever's in my head, whatever's in my heart. And I just like let it all rest on the page. I don't have to do anything with it. I just let it rest on the page. Guided visualizations do that for me too, in terms of the mind. They get into a really quiet place. And meditation, silent meditation, seated meditation. Even if it's 15 minutes, There's some really great apps too, that are great meditation apps that, you can just for 5 minutes, you can have a little quiet time, a little stillness. The third category are, the things that nourish the soul, right? The things that bring you joy. And so for me, that's my family. So I'm spending a lot of time with my son, my daughter, my brother, my husband, family events. And the other thing, that no matter what, no matter what, no matter what, is create, create, create. I'm always creating something. Always creating something, because that puts your energy in an expansive state. Now you are aligned, as far as my experience, with the forces of the universe, with the forces of the cosmos, with, whatever the at cause is, right? So taking on that aspect of yourself as creator, creating something that makes you feel good. That's really, I find to be very, very, very nourishing. And of course, circles hit up quite a few of these things. So that's why for me, it's been one of my most cherished practices. So those are the kind of things that I've been doing, and doing them on a regular basis. Working out, again, that's not the answer for a lot of people. A lot of people don't enjoy that, but I have spent decades in the gym, and I used to co-own one with my brother. So for me, a gym is another home, another place where I'm like, I know all the equipment, I know what to do. It's part of who I've been and who I choose to be, to be healthy and stay active. And one of the things that I'm really getting is, how I need to really pace it in a different way, because I've been getting some injuries. So, so those are some of the things I wanted to share with you today. I'd love to check in with you now, and let's just see if we can knit around, whoever feels called to, and kind of share what's working for you. What are you noticing, and what's working for you in terms of self-care practices? I'd like to go first.
I can go.
Thanks, Angela.
Major changes, of course, some of them, the relocation and my husband's death. My daughter, who was always near and dear, but not in a way that I felt she wanted me here. She wanted me near to be sure I was safe. We are growing a brand new, wonderful relationship. The estranged daughter still isn't, but what I found in this very small apartment, in this gated community where I begin to feel safe again after traumas, is that I want to do things. I do go to the pool. I do join the library for a writing movement and art class. I do go and write my own things. I have started writing this whole month, last month. Haven't shared much, but I've been writing, letting it out, as you say, which is how I let papers out. But from that writing is where I rediscover me. And so when I spoke up at the I say library, but not the Y, but the library, I said I'd bring a new mini book called Letting It Go. And there's another one called The Journey Back to Peace. So things are happening again. And health is very challenging right now. Physical mobility is very challenging. But they're not stopping me from enjoyment. So that's what I'm doing.
That's wonderful, Angela. That's such good news. Because it's, after you all have gone through traumatic experiences, it's really hard to find yourself again, and to find a safe space from which you can start, taking your leaps again.
I have a
So
welcoming community here. We're a small apartment complex, and the women I've gotten to know are most accepting. And the facility offers the shuttle bus and the actions. And we even went to the Worst Fest for a couple hours. And for me, 2 hours is a lot. I'm not able to do it. I took the walker, but I'm doing the actions. And that's where the change is. With Bob's needs and my limited physical movement, I stopped. I just survived. Now I'm going back to life.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, darling. Yes, that's what we gotta do. We gotta come back. You know, sometimes, and it takes whatever, here's the thing, it takes whatever it takes. Sometimes it takes a while. When my mom passed, I think I was a year and a half, but I was a hot holy mess. I was like, I have no clue. Luckily, I had a writing circle at the time, so that's how I made it through, because I don't know that I could have made it through. It was just the intensity of feeling every day, every day, every day was, it was shocking. I never would have imagined that I would have experienced that. And then it lived, and you know, and I still, even with all of that happening, I still kept hosting circles. I still was writing. I was still doing things. So I think that for me, what I'm noticing, and I see it as a through line with other people too, is that just staying in a place where you're creating, where the juices are flowing, where there's this something that that can be created out of this thing that is so hard, that is so hard to experience. And yet when we come through it, there's a new level of richness and an expansion that wasn't there before, because that's the choice that we can make when we go through difficult experiences. We can look to shift from them. We can choose to make something up. So thank you, Angela. It's wonderful to hear. Yeah, and the connection to people, to a community, is really important. It's like we can't really do it alone, and when we do, we go through a lot. That's unnecessary. So thanks for bringing that up. The community piece is big. It's also, if you ever read any Blue Zone stuff, so I found a newsletter. The guy's really, like, I think he's in his 40s or something like that, but he's really smart and he's got a lot of good stuff. And he was saying that a lot of people think the Blue Zones diet, the reason that people live to like 100, you know, in like certain places in Japan and Eastern Europe is, you know, because of the diet and everything. He's like, yeah, it's that, but it's also primarily the community. We've got such active and deeply connected community that makes a huge difference. You know, we are pack animals. We're community people. So yeah. Who's next? Who wants to share what you're noticing and what your practices are that are supporting you during this time?
Well, I'm very blessed to be right around the corner from a national forest. Places to walk. It's unusual because this particular forest is pretty much all junipers, and I grew up in the Midwest. And is this a forest? I've been rather hesitant to claim that, but it is indeed, as I've learned over 8 years here. And I find that nature, and for me, where I live in New Mexico, most nights there's a magical, awe-inspiring night sky, and it's like I drink it in. Just the other morning, I was rocketed out of bed with a leg cramp right before dawn, pre-dawn, and you know that is not fun. But I kind of relaxed and I thought, well, maybe there's a purpose for this. And I went out to our eastern deck, and sure enough, there was the crescent moon and Venus, like, you know, from where I was standing, just inches from each other. Obviously, in their world, it was quite a bit further distant, but they were very, very close together in the sky. And it was so magnificent. It was like a balm to my heart. I also have a lot of practices. I try to keep track of my walks and my number of steps. And did I take my supplements today? I feel better when I do. And a number of I sort of affirmation like, prayer like, poem like practices that are just in my body and that I pay attention to. And similarly to Adela, one of the things that I offer in one-on-one sessions and conversations, as well as in circles, is a centering or a meditative visualization journey. And I can come to a meeting feeling, a little bit off. And then I offer this. Would you all like to have a centering? And people who know me say yes. And so we do that. And it's for me as much as for the people I'm with. So those are some of my high points on the self-care continuum.
Good love. Yeah, it's the power of words to co-create a space. I call them, I always used to call them energy shifts. And I started calling them more guided visualizations lately, just because people recognize what that is, or they get an idea. Oh, I think I know what that is. All right. Because for me, a lot of it is, this has always been the distinction for me, is that we are intentionally co-creating something together. So it's not just Adela leading this thing. Like when I do, and they're always improvisational in nature for me, because it's like a tapping into the current moment and those of us that are gathered. And they're always different depending on, what it is and the day and who's there and what shows up. But it always shifts my state. Always. Always. Yeah, emerging in the co-creation fields. Yes, indeed. And this is the thing. We forget that we are these magnificent beings that have access to these capacities, and that at will we can invoke these frequencies, these spaces. Not to make it too woo, but there's lots of science backing up a lot of these things that a lot of us that have done this kind of work for a while, just intuitively we know. And I think it's also that we respond to it. So for me, I find them very powerful, and your circles are amazing. They're amazing, Bobby. Thank you, darling. Yeah, and not giving our life force energies to all that other. Yes, because according to the great sages and masters, this is not reality. We're constantly creating our realities, and we are collectively creating the world, right? And I know that there may only be like, I don't know if it's 1% or 10% of people who think like this. I don't know what the numbers are. I know that we're not the majority, right? Most people think, hey, this is life and this is how it's supposed to be and this is how it's supposed to go. No, things are a lot more. I remember in the gym back in the day when I used to do personal training, and I used to say, reality is flexible. Reality is flexible. I remember I was in my 40s and I looked 20 something. And a lot of it was that I wasn't buying into, oh, here's what a 40-year-old looks like and does, right? And of course I did the things, the actions, I took care of myself. And so, I looked a certain way, but it's the same thing in anything else. A lot of the constructs that we create are not true. And often in life, we discover later on, oh my God, that thing I used to think about myself, that was such BS. It was so true, But until we're willing to connect, to really connect, which is what happens in guided visualizations, I believe that we connect to that energy, and that energy moves through us and it shifts things and realigns things. So, yeah, Bobby, I'm with you, sister.
I think maybe I'll go next. And Bobby, by the way, I'm very jealous of you because I used to go to New Mexico like 5 times a month. So I lived in West Texas, so I was on the border of New Mexico, and New Mexico was like a sister state. So you're very lucky. Um, my problem is, like all of these things that like you guys are talking about are such, such good ideas, and I know, these are things that I used to do. My problem is that, because I've been in a position of, it's been a year and 3 months that I have no control over what I do and where I go. And basically, I'm locked up in this room by myself 24 hours a day. And, I don't have visitors. I see my kids once in a while, but, you know, they have families too, so I can't expect them to be here all the time. And, I have, I've overcome like a lot of physical, issues that happened with my accident that I was in, but I haven't had time. I've lost two people, now actually three people very close to me within this 1 year, one of them being my mother. And I haven't had time to grieve because, I'm too involved in, my own recovery, my own physical recovery and everything. And this lack of control over my life, it's just driving me crazy. And what I tend to do when I feel like this is I shut down. I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to see anybody. I don't want to talk about anything. Just leave me alone. And it's become so hard to, like, I'm in here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week by myself. And it's hard. Like, there's only so much I can do to, like, do something to get my mind off of things. And then I start overthinking, and and then, I speak to my therapist, and something that Adele said, about self-care and everything. When I spoke to my therapist on Tuesday, I was explaining to him, you know, how I feel, that when I look at myself in the mirror, I don't see myself anymore. I see somebody else because, the injuries I've had. And he told me, you know what? We're gonna have to work on a plan where you have to start to learn to love yourself again. Because right now, I don't love myself. I don't love myself because of the physical things that I'm going through. And mentally, I'm just like my head is all over the place. And it's very hard to center myself.
Yeah, you've had a lot, Carmen, but the invitation here is, what have you been doing? What can you do? Like, there's not a lot of options right now for you because of the situation that you're in. And so I think the invitation that I hear is, how can you open yourself? Because you said that your response is to shut down.
Yeah.
And darling, that is so freaking normal and so regular. I mean, that I think, I don't know anybody on the planet that doesn't do that when they're in a place where they're feeling really traumatized and really hurting. We all try to protect ourselves in whatever way that we can, and it comes from a very primal place. So, you're on a journey, Carmen. You know this. You've been on it already for a while, and it's a rough journey, no doubt. you know, but what the invitation that I hear is how can you open? And that's not necessarily something that you need to answer on this call, but it is like any muscle, Carmen. Of course it's hard. Of course it's hard. Like, how many years did you live your life another way, right?
Yeah,
A
60.
really long time. It was a really long time that you lived your
Yeah.
life another way. Now there's another life that has unfolded for you, and an opportunity for you to really get to know who you really are and what's really possible for you. And it hasn't been an easy, you know, it hasn't been an easy journey. But for me, what I'm hearing are two things: is how can you be more open? How can you, when you're in that moment, when you want to run and hide, how can you be vulnerable and open yourself? Maybe asking for help. I'm just throwing things out there that are coming to me because these are the things that I find really hard to do too.
Definitely. Me too.
Asking for help, you know, and I'm sure that there's people that offer, but it's sometimes it's really hard to ask for help. But I'm telling you, it's a muscle. And in the beginning, it's like anything, Carmen. It's a practice, and you say, okay, I'm feeling like this. I want to run. I want to hide. I don't want to talk to anybody. How can I do the opposite of that? What can I do as close to, and it might be, you know, I don't know what your situation is. It might be something really, really small, but it doesn't matter what it is. But it's how can you start flexing the muscle of a different choice? Because those ingrained habits that we have are what keep us in the state that we're in. So the shift is always in doing something that feels uncomfortable, and in something, and actively dislike, actually actively dislike.
Yeah, it's going from I had total control over my life and what I do, and I had a routine, and I do this, and I, was, doing 10 miles a day and going to the gym, and, spending a lot of time with you and your brother and all that. And then all of a sudden it was like poof, everything, my entire life has changed, and
Yeah.
it has changed basically forever because, this was a life-changing thing. And it's like my therapist said, that's what I need to find a way to get out of this like bubble that I'm in, that, I don't know if it's necessary. I mean, yeah, I have been put in this bubble, unfortunately, but how can I don't know. I don't know what to do.
Carmen, I'm sure we need to check in with Warren in a minute, just because we're coming up on time. But I'm sure that right now in your life, that there are opportunities where you can open and you can connect with other people, which seems to me to be one of the things that could help shift this. Because by yourself, this is really hard to do. You can read all the books you want, you can listen to all the podcasts you want, but what we need to get is in other human beings, and we need to feel often, to feel love for ourselves, we need to feel it from other people,
Yeah.
you
And I
know.
think
And so it's a matter of opening to it, Carmen, and opening to how you can create a new default response instead of the closing down and holding yourself away. Opening and risking connecting when you're feeling vulnerable.
yeah, I have to I have to really start trying that,
You just decide. You just decide. You just decide. You put it on
Yeah.
the calendar. Maybe there's something that you can go to on a regular basis, and you can show up as that. You can show up as that, and create an opportunity for yourself to show up as who you want to be. And often, this is why I find that circles are really good, because for me, when I do something, I have to show up. So that guarantees that I'm going to do it. So often that's what I say to other people. If you want to create a change, lead it. Be the one that hosts something, a gathering or something. Be the one that does that, because then you will have to show up. So that's an environment that forces, that elicits your growth, that invites it, that it's inevitable because you said you're going to do this thing. Now other people are going to show up. Now you got to do it. So I'm just tossing out a couple of things that have really made a difference for me, Carmen. But in the end, what you've got to do is check in with yourself, maybe journal around it, maybe listen to that guided visualization again and see what could really serve you right now.
Yeah.
Thank you, Carmen.
Thank you.
All right, love.
This has been helpful, Adela. For a person who has led many groups, helped many people get themselves back together, I'm realizing on this call that I'm right now just passing through. And as I'm passing through life, I'm allowing the news, the stock market, the world events to be seeping on me. My one get out and really stay alive is to ride a bike. I get out probably 5 days a week, put a lot of miles on, and in those miles, as I've listened to this phone call, I realized that I'm being out there. I'm just being. You know, I'm not riding. I'm not doing. I'm just being, and I smell the smells, and I see what's around me. Occasionally, have to flip off a car that might be not so nice. Uh, uh, and really, what comes to me from spending this little bit of time with you and the group is I have to go back and rediscover and redevelop my intentionality. My intentionality was to help people. My intentionality was to bring my best self into the sunshine of the day. That was how I started most of my days, with that statement. And that's kind of been tucked in my back pocket. And I realized that tomorrow morning I'm going to get up, and I'm probably going to go to sleep tonight with it as well, to say that I'm going to look to bring my best self into the day and to set some intentionality as to what I can bring to the world in my small little way, and accept what the world has to give back to me. So I thank everybody for sharing. I think it's in a community like this that one feels energy. I know in the groups that I led, that's what we had, was an energy that far surpassed anything that I did or anything that any individual did. It was just being together and letting the universe explode within us. So I thank you, Adela. It must have been a good reason why I noticed that this call and came along.
I'm so glad.
Thank
I
you.
can't tell you what a smile I brought to my face when I said, "Weren't you?" That's so good. I love that you're bringing out this intentionality piece, because that's what I mean when I'm saying the moment to moment focus. You know, are we going to play? Is this the playground? Or, you know, is this like this drudgery? Even when things are rough in general for a lot of people. And we go through experiences that are really hard. Being human and living, it's not easy sometimes. We all deal with loss. We all deal with massive change. Some of us, you know, have bigger explorations than others, bigger journeys than others in terms of, you know, the depths that we go. But I really believe that there's perfection to everything, and that how we choose to encounter the experience impacts the outcome, and who we're choosing to be in it. You know, choosing and you know what's wild is we think it's this little thing that I'm doing in my corner of the world, right? But your little thing is touching a circle. And that circle touches a circle, and that circle touches another circle. And so who we are ripples out, you know, and sometimes we're amazing human beings and sometimes we fall short. I think the important thing is to focus on, you know, what can we bring to the party? What can we bring to the party? What can we bring to the party? And just, I loved how you said when you were out bike riding that it's just being. And I think that that's a lot of what these experiences, that's what they deliver us to us, right? Whether it's watching the stars in Arizona, which I have also done, and attest to it's the most amazing place aside from the Amazon jungle to do star watching. It's amazing. You just stare into that sky and you are just filled with joy. You are just like, oh my God, this is so amazing. This is so beautiful. This is so perfect. Everything is so good right now. Just from seeing the stars, you know? And there's so many experiences like that. You know, our loved ones, a moment, we're laughing, and it all feels just so good, you know, or we have a circle like this and we're sharing, or it's like, oh my God, here are the through lines. This is all the stuff that really matters, you know, it's awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for showing up today. I did this impromptu, so extra kudos to you for showing up because I just put this out. So thank you so much. I got so much from today. I don't know if anyone has any parting thoughts before we sign off.
I would just ask that you do it again.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, I am thinking of doing it second and fourth. I don't know if 5 o'clock is a good time or if 12 o'clock noon Eastern is a better time. I guess I'll check in and see with folks. Because I know some people wanted to come and they're in Europe and they're like, I can't make 10 o'clock at night. I'm like, I understand. So yeah, I'm thinking of doing it again on the fourth Friday. Thank you, Warren. Anyone
Thank
else?
you.
Thank you for inviting me. I
Thank
need
you, darling. Yes. Love you all. Thank you. See you next time. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Great vibes to everybody. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.